With the Prince of Pot and his lovely wife, Jodie. Marc and Jodie Emery are here. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
I'd like to hear that Legalize It song. That's good.
You like that one?
Yeah, we're going to hear a lot of that over the next year, I'm sure.
Let's go back to the last 4 years for you, and then we'll look ahead. What was it like? Is it as we might imagine in a U.S. prison?
It looks like you would imagine, because a U.S. prison is just like all the TV shows, Oz and all that. It's all concrete and steel, and we all have a uniform to wear, and since I was in a medium prison, that's the one lower than penitentiary, everybody's covered in tattoos. There's people like me who look like innocents, by comparison. But I knew at least 50 guys had their entire head tattooed and things like that.
Did you feel safe there?
I did feel safe there. I was in 6 different prisons overall in 4.5 years, and I never at any point felt threatened in any place. And actually, I rarely heard an unkind word directed at me. Fortunately, wherever I went, people could validate my identity very quickly. A lot of people had seen me on television. Television shows I was on, including some really good ones, on National Geographic and Discovery Channel, played in the prison a lot. Like at least 6 times the National Geographic show showed up over 3 years. So I had elevated status because of who I was, and other people who'd known me when they were on the outside, they had read about me, and so in prison they were able to say that guy's famous and so. And then I got to be in a band. I was taught how to play bass guitar. I played in a rock and roll band, a fabulous rock and roll band, and I did 14 concerts. I became a musician, so I kept very busy. I had 25 magazine subscriptions. I read a book a week. I had the New York Times, which I loved. I had books of Sunday crossword puzzles to do. I mean, I want to say I had a good time, but I kept really busy. The days went by fast, and the weather was usually nice in Mississippi.
And now you clearly have a message and are going to be very busy on this side of the border. What is the plan of action as you move forward? We saw the homecoming the past couple of days, especially here in Vancouver. What's the plan of action?
Well, normally you don't know an election's coming, and then they call when you have 30, 35 days, and there's not really much to discuss. Issues really aren't discussed at election time, but this is unusual. We know the election's going to be in 14 months, so that's actually like a target date. So I've decided that I am going to hijack this election, and we're going to make it a referendum on marijuana legalization. And in fact, we've got a promotional campaign already, and it'll be October 19, 2015 is legalization day. Just show up. Because my feeling is if I can get the 3 million people in the cannabis culture to actually show up and vote for one specific party, the Liberal Party of Canada, where their leader has promised to legalize marijuana, then we can end the whole debate once and for all. On that day, one day, if everybody spends 30 minutes of their life and shows up, we'll make that happen, and they'll have a Liberal majority, and then I would expect quite shortly afterwards we'd see legal marijuana all across Canada, and that would end 45 years of a colossal injustice that we've had.
So where do you think that the profits from legalization of marijuana should go?
They should go to the people who earn them.
And taxes should go where?
That would exclude government, of course, but realistically, we all have to compromise in ways of legislation. So I'm quite content to see marijuana taxed, but I don't want to see it punitively taxed. See, I don't accept the idea that marijuana is a vice. I accept that marijuana is a healthful balm for people who need it medically. It's a wonderful euphoric for those who want to use it recreationally, but I don't believe we're sinners, and therefore we don't have to pay sin tax. Like tobacco, yeah, that'll kill you, and it's bad for you, and it puts a lot of health care costs on our system. And alcohol has terrible, terrible social implications, safety implications, health implications. So there's a tax on that can be exceeding the PST and GST. But I don't accept that marijuana causes any of these problems, and therefore we should only be subject to PST and GST. And that means a very low tax regime. And ultimately marijuana will be a lot cheaper because competition in a legal environment will bring it down. We should be able to grow it in our backyards too. And so I believe we will, because the federal government, when they legalize it, they're just going to withdraw marijuana from the schedule of controlled drugs and substances. Then it will be up to the provinces to regulate it, and you'll have 13 different regimes. And the important problem we have now is that the provinces aren't talking about it. They're totally silent. Oh, it's not our business. It's going to be their business very shortly because the provinces have the jurisdiction of regulating something like marijuana.
And Jodie, last time you came on, we were talking about pushing for the nomination, the Liberal nomination in the Vancouver East riding. Clearly, this is a passionate issue with the platform. What are the other key issues you're going to push for to get this nomination and push forth?
Well, everybody says pot isn't really a big topic, but I'm here to remind people that it relates to everything else. We're seeing next door in Washington State and in Colorado generating money, millions of dollars for hospitals and schools. Canadians are most concerned about jobs and the economy. And when we're talking about the marijuana industry, it represents billions of dollars in jobs that are currently being given to gangsters by the prohibitionist policy. So I want to talk about about the money that can be raised to help all the other issues where money is needed, we aren't going to see major changes with healthcare or education, no matter what party you vote for. And as I've often said, nearly 44% of our income goes to taxes generally across Canada, and we're not getting the services that we need for that. So my biggest plank that I used even during the provincial campaign is reprioritizing spending. We're all overtaxed and underserved with regards to our essential services, but I don't think we need to raise taxes or cut services. I think we can use the money that's already there, reprioritize where it's being spent. And with marijuana, we need to legalize it to save billions of dollars in enforcement, courts, and we can allow people to get jobs, pay taxes, and again, get the gangsters out of those job positions. Americans are working those jobs right now. Why can't Canadians who are desperately looking for work? And then you have to look at other issues with policing, the spying, the massive growth of the policing industry with tanks and militarized weapons, all used with respect to the gangs and the drug trade and this problem that the policy creates. So again, that's about money and our civil liberties and making sure that people aren't going to be burdened with the expense financially of funding prohibition, but that we can also benefit financially from legalization. And that can go towards addressing all of the other top concerns people say are more important than pot. And of course, in Vancouver East, drug prohibition, major issue. The insight is in that riding, and it's setting an example that is yet to be followed around the world. So I would love the opportunity to go to Ottawa and say, listen, this is helping people. It should be brought to Ottawa as well, where they're trying to implement harm reduction, and talk on those issues. Again, it's about money, lives, civil liberties, and prohibition affects all of us in that way.
Your message is certainly crystal clear. We'll be hearing more from you, I'm sure, as we do get ever
She
closer.
became quite the politician.
Clearly, right?
Wow.
Welcome back.
Yeah, he hasn't seen much yet.
That's right. Here it
I
is.
had a wonderful teacher for so many years.
This is it.
My irreverent, playful attitude towards politics is dated, I see.
I'm the boring one.
You guys are welcome to come back here and speak with us on these platforms and much more. Your travels, I understand you're heading across to Europe now.
Oh, goody.
So, well, we'll be glad to welcome you back home again and keep us posted on things.